a war did not just erupt in the Middle East. It has now entered the U.S. political system. In the last 24 hours, the biggest story is the backlash over Trump's Iran policy, with the House moving to rein him in as Republican support for military involvement weakens. Looking ahead, the political landscape in Washington is likely to become even more contentious. Recent events have heightened tensions between the White House and Congress regarding military authority and escalation limits. The House vote on military engagement serves as a critical backdrop as lawmakers increasingly demand clearer parameters governing U.S. military actions in the Middle East. This push for legislative oversight reflects a growing concern among both Democrats and Republicans about the implications of unchecked military involvement. Historical precedents, such as the Vietnam War and the Iraq conflict, have left deep scars, prompting lawmakers to reconsider the balance of power between the executive branch and Congress. Diplomatic pressure surrounding ceasefire discussions involving Israel, Lebanon, and Hezbollah-linked attacks will likely escalate as well. The United States finds itself at a crossroads, facing the challenge of balancing its strategic interests with the moral imperatives of humanitarian concerns. One possibility is a shift toward military restraint, where U.S. leadership adopts a more measured response to ongoing conflicts, prioritizing diplomatic solutions over military intervention. Conversely, should the situation deteriorate, limited military strikes could be authorized, further entrenching U.S. involvement. However, the risk of broader escalation looms large, potentially igniting a regional war that could disrupt global stability. The central question remains whether the United States will prioritize restraint or deepen its engagement in the conflict. This decision is increasingly shaped by domestic political considerations, reflecting the complex interplay of governance and foreign policy. As these developments unfold, the implications for U.S. foreign policy and international relations will be profound. The outcome of these debates will not only define the future of U.S. involvement in the Middle East, but also set the tone for its global standing. In light of these factors, lawmakers must act decisively to navigate these turbulent waters in the coming weeks. The backdrop to today's events is rooted in a series of escalating tensions between Iran and its regional adversaries. In recent months, confrontations have intensified, particularly involving Iranian military support for proxy groups in Lebanon and Syria. These proxies have increasingly engaged in attacks against U.S. interests, heightening concerns among American lawmakers and military officials. The U.S. has historically taken a strong stance against Iranian influence in the region, leading to a complex web of alliances and hostilities. The recent escalation of violence has forced both allied governments and U.S. lawmakers to react, creating a volatile environment. Key decisions, such as the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan and the reallocation of military resources to the Middle East, have contributed to the current situation. The internal split within the Republican Party regarding military engagement reflects a growing awareness of the costs associated with prolonged conflict. Previous military engagements, such as the Iraq War, serve as a cautionary tale for many lawmakers now wary of repeating past mistakes. This dissent within the party signals a significant change in political dynamics, where the risks of escalation are now deemed too great to ignore. The impact of these developments extends beyond military strategy, influencing diplomatic relations and economic policies. Nations in the region are reevaluating their alliances, with some seeking closer ties to Iran while others bolster their defenses against it. As the situation continues to unfold, the outlook remains uncertain. The Biden administration faces mounting pressure to formulate a cohesive strategy addressing both the immediate threats and the long-term implications of Iranian influence. In the coming weeks, policymakers will likely intensify discussions on how best to navigate this complex landscape, balancing military readiness with diplomatic engagement. The recent House vote on U.S. military powers marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate surrounding American foreign policy and military engagement. By asserting its authority, Congress is challenging the executive branch's traditionally expansive war powers, particularly concerning military actions in Iran. This legislative move comes amid growing concerns about the potential for escalating conflict in the Middle East, where tensions have been heightened in recent years due to Iran's nuclear ambitions and its support for proxy groups. Lawmakers are expressing increasing unease, recognizing that any escalation could lead to a broader regional conflict, which would have significant repercussions for U.S. interests abroad. Historically, the War Powers Resolution of 1973 was designed to limit the president's ability to engage in military conflict without congressional approval. However, the executive branch has often circumvented these restrictions, leading to a long-standing debate about the balance of power in military decisions. The recent vote reflects a growing bipartisan consensus among lawmakers who fear that unchecked military action could embroil the U.S. in another protracted conflict, reminiscent of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The implications of this vote are extensive. For the Trump administration, the need to recalibrate its military strategy is immediate. The administration may now face constraints that could limit its ability to respond to threats in the region without congressional approval. This shift not only affects military personnel stationed in the Middle East, whose safety may be jeopardized by either an aggressive military posture or a sudden withdrawal of support, but also influences the administration's overall credibility in foreign policy matters. Politically, the ramifications are significant. With Republican support for military engagement in Iran dwindling, President Trump may find that any future military action could be politically costly. This shift could embolden critics within the party and among the electorate, leading to a more polarized political landscape regarding foreign interventions. As Congress reasserts its role in war powers, the potential for legislative gridlock over military funding and strategy could complicate U.S. operations abroad. Looking ahead, this development signals a potential transformation in U.S. military strategy and funding, emphasizing the need for a more diplomatic approach in addressing complex international challenges. The administration's ability to navigate this new terrain will be crucial for maintaining both national security and international alliances. On June 6, 2026, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to limit President Trump's authority regarding military action against Iran. This unprecedented vote, which passed by a margin of 230 to 197, signals a growing unease among lawmakers about deeper U.S. involvement in the ongoing conflict. The decision comes amidst escalating tensions in the Middle East, where military skirmishes have raised fears of a wider war. Key figures such as House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries emphasize the need for congressional oversight over military engagements, highlighting a significant departure from the traditionally expansive presidential war powers. Historically, U.S. presidents have enjoyed considerable latitude in deploying military force without prior congressional approval. However, recent military actions and the potential for an expanded conflict with Iran have prompted lawmakers from both parties to reassess this dynamic. Bipartisan support for limiting presidential war powers reflects a fundamental shift in Congress's perception of its role in matters of war. Lawmakers are increasingly concerned about the ramifications of unchecked military engagement, particularly as public sentiment leans toward caution in foreign conflicts. Just hours after the House vote, reports emerged of renewed ceasefire discussions in the region, particularly involving Israel and Lebanon. These discussions hinge on Hezbollah's commitment to cease its attacks, indicating a potential de-escalation of hostilities. The dual narrative of domestic political strife and international conflict underscores the complex dynamics at play as lawmakers grapple with both the implications of military action abroad and their responsibilities at home. The impact of this vote is likely to resonate beyond the immediate political landscape. By asserting its authority, Congress may pave the way for a more balanced approach to military intervention, fostering greater accountability and transparency in U.S. foreign policy. This could also influence the administration's future decisions regarding Iran and other geopolitical hotspots. Looking ahead, the question remains whether this newfound congressional assertiveness will lead to lasting change in U.S. military policy. As tensions in the Middle East continue to evolve, the legislative landscape may further shift, prompting a reevaluation of how military actions are authorized and conducted. The coming weeks will be critical in determining if this trend toward oversight will endure. As we face this pivotal moment, the question remains, is this becoming a Middle East war or a constitutional fight over who controls America's military power? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for daily deep dives.